Hi, and welcome to All the Woo A to Z. We're your hosts, Suzanne.
And Mychal, and this is season 2.
Hi, I'm Suzanne, and I have spent the past week studying vowels.
Hi, I'm Mychal. I have spent the last week dealing with my car. And this is All the Woo.
A to Z.
And we are supposed to be doing K this time.
So just work with us here and think about it as sympathetic magic with a K,
Yes.
because that's what it's going to be.
Yes.
Because K knocked us over.
It did. It did. We recorded a lot of different versions of different things.
And we're sparing you all of them.
Yes. And this one is a little bit, you'll find out. It's a little bit
Timelier.
timely, yeah. So as always, please join us at our metaphorical table. That's actually now a real table. We're really excited about that. It's a non-judgmental space where we share our own experiences and understandings on these topics, and at the very least, hope that you were entertained.
So what's the fancy drink to go with sympathetic magic?
I like the emphasis on the back end there. Okay, so we are doing instead of a wine this evening. So this is all, I'm also going to walk you through this. There's another wine I could have got, but then it was a little too on the nose. And I thought, let's just do something that actually kind of helps with this idea. So we are enjoying Jefferson's Ocean Aged at Sea bourbon. It is a small batch bourbon. So what makes this different than some other bourbons or whiskeys is that it is aged for a period of time on ships that are at sea and go around the globe, essentially. So they're aged
Mermaid
at sea.
tears. It's
Exactly. Yeah,
aged in mermaid tears.
exactly. So where this whole idea of sympathetic magic with this is concerned is that you have that sense of they have the tasting note of being sea spray that kind of comes through, right? And one could argue that water itself is not necessarily making its way into the bottles, right? And that you're actually tasting sea. There's a part of it where it's by putting it and resting it in a place that it is somehow absorbing that quality of the place. So it's kind of that idea as far as linking sympathetic magic. And Jefferson's also has a number of other bourbons that they have that don't have this quality to it. There's a lot of wines that especially, we're going to go Titanic. Titanic has champagne at the bottom that did not explode because of the amount of pressure that's in those bottles. So it stayed intact. And somebody with a submergible brought those bottles up and have sold it. And some people have had it to drink and it's still good is the crazy part. It does also have some sea-like qualities in the beverage itself. People are paying high dollar for this. So sadly, we are not having any of those wines this evening. I'm sorry.
No Titanic bubbles for us.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah. But so I figured next thing is that we're going to do the bourbon. So here we are.
So, and y'all may remember how much we both love spirits, especially like this. So
yes,
here's to the game.
Yeah, you can't really hear our cheers. It happened. Yeah.
So, sympathetic magic. I can hear you saying, what is this? And why did you choose this to be RK? So, sympathetic magic is when you are taking the energies of something and using them in the form of achieving a goal or making a wish or fulfilling a will or something like that. So doing magic, but doing it in something adjacent to it.
Yes.
So my personal story with sympathetic magic, and this is going to be a little rambly because, well, the story is a little rambly.
Sorry.
So I was taking a group of people to Italy.
All right.
In order to meet the people who were interested in maybe going to Italy, we had a party at our house. Somehow, a woman who was a friend of a friend of a friend came over to my house, and the party was outside. We were on the front porch. It was about 150 degrees. I am not kidding. It was so hot. But so nobody came inside really. And at one point, right before she left, she did come inside
Mhm.
and we had a moment. And one of the connections that we had was a very dear friend of mine who had been very supportive when I was doing a interactive hero's journey experience it was the Heroes series seminar,
Mhm.
I think. I think that's what it was. I can still see the logo in my head. But it was very active and kinetic in the practices I had people doing as they were kind of unwinding themselves as the hero of their own story.
Mhm.
So she had made a paper chain representative of the chains.
Yes.
So, but this was very much like branded with me.
Mhm.
And so 2 days later, the woman who had been on my porch died suddenly.
Mhm.
And all of a sudden, I was part of all of the mystery and the questions of what was going on and how did she die and all this stuff. I have never met this woman before that one day she showed up on my porch.
Mhm.
And so I called this mutual friend and said, "Hey, did you hear about this?" And she's like, "Yes." And I was like, "Did you know she was at my house?" And she's like, "How?" And I was like, "You." But I said, "Have you done something that connects us?" Because there's no other reason that I would be involved in this. I don't want to be involved in this. I don't know any of these people, but I'm finally finding myself
Yeah.
caught up in all of this.
Yeah.
And she said, "You know, I have a part of my writing desk that's kind of my altar
Mhm.
of people who have been important to me. And I have a picture of you and a picture of her, and it's wrapped around with that paper chain that I made in your class."
Yes.
And I was like, "Please undo that."
Yeah. Please, could you not have us wrapped in chains together? That would be great.
So that is the idea of sympathetic magic.
Yes.
And I would say that sporting events,
Mhm.
also sympathetic magic, because anytime that you are putting on a uniform to make you blend in with another group of people that you all have a specific point of view. If you involve food, if you
Mhm.
involve chants, if you involve parades,
Mhm.
all of those kinds of things, you are just amping up the power of that. If the Catholic Church has done it in the past couple thousand years,
Yeah.
it's sympathetic magic.
Yeah, a lot of people, cultures, in order to give a young boy strength, right, growing up, might put on skins of a bear, right,
Hmm.
to try and absorb the qualities and strength of that animal. So it's really not unusual. Majority of forms of magic spells
Hmm.
have this built into them. Very rarely are spells just word oriented and just being
Hmm.
like, and so it is. Although you can do that, a lot of more traditional styles of magic, you gather, so even gathering certain herbs and things like that, because they all symbolize and represent
Hmm.
certain things, that's how you're utilizing those qualities. You're bringing them in.
And all of it is about taking that intention. So,
Right.
your sports team winning, you all have the intention that you're going to win.
Hmm.
And so, you do all of these things to gather as a group. And I think one of the more fascinating things, and this, again, Jesus said this, where two or more of you are gathered together.
Yeah.
And I think I've mentioned this in a past episode, but every relationship is 1 + 1 = 3.
Yes.
So there is the person, there is Mychal, there is Suzanne, and then between the two of us is the thing, the entity that is our relationship.
Hmm.
And so anytime you are taking a group of 100 people,
Hmm.
you are multiplying them because between each of them and between the thing that they're all cheering for are those other relationships.
Sorry, not necessarily related, but I have to say it. The 1 and 1 = 3 idea, I think of, they're part of the story, the other person's part of the story, and then the third story is probably the truth, somewhere in between. Sorry, my mind just went to that.
I think that's probably how mediators look at things.
Probably, yeah.
So that's what we're talking about when we talk about sympathetic magic.
Mhm.
So what kind of sympathetic magic have you seen, participated in?
All the things. I think even me wearing my stones, like that we've talked about in the
Mhm.
past, is definitely a part of that, because for me, when I choose certain jewelry to wear,
Mhm.
I know what all those stones mean, represent, qualities that they're supposed to impart. You could also say that there is another more quantum energy element, right, to that. Sure, yes, but part of what we're kind of getting at here is this idea of what it represents to you, what it represents collectively as well. There's a power and strength to how people identify with something, and that you're bringing it into your own space. So the fact that I even choose these certain stones to wear, and that groups of people have settled on what they represent and stand for and qualities that they offer, that's a form of sympathetic magic.
Yeah,
So
you're aligning with that intention.
yeah. So very recently, just a couple of hours ago, I participated in that by putting on all my jewelry. You're welcome.
So we just got back from New Orleans,
Yes, we did.
which I would say is probably the American hotbed of sympathetic magic.
Probably, yes. In more ways than one.
But the way we went for Mardi Gras, which is, how would you describe that in terms of the sympathetic magic?
So we had a little bit of a conversation with somebody who lives there about how New Orleans deals with parades in general. So this can be with Mardi Gras overall, yes, but I think in general how that culture there deals with parades.
Everything becomes a parade. Yes.
Correct, right? It's not just for a single day, for one single event. It's for a period of time that they are celebrating all elements of this period of time, and Mardi Gras can very much be embodied in this. And what I really enjoy about how they deal with parades is that you don't just go, you're not just a spectator. I don't know if it's necessarily encouraged, but culturally, there's many people who dress up for the parade even though they're not in the parade. They know that there's a theme to the parade and they want to be a part of that parade.
Aligning with the intention.
Correct, right? So
adding food and drink and chants.
Yes. So as an example, an easy example, one of the parades is Bourbon, which is my understanding that the color green is a major part or theme to that particular parade. So a lot of people who are going even to watch or be a part of it in that way will dress up in green themselves to help feel the energy as well. But that there's just so much dressing up in costumes that are kind of happening, that it's not just the people in the parade that are doing this, it's the people who are watching the parade as well. So I'd have to say that that's a huge part of one element anyway. I know that there's a lot of other parts to it, but I'm just going to throw that one out because it's easy.
And I will say one of the other things about the parades in New Orleans is that they very often have a pointed message.
Yes, there's a specific thing that they're about.
And so when there's a problem with the city in New Orleans, which it seems like that's not an infrequent situation in terms of maintenance or something like that, oftentimes they will do a parade to point out the problem.
Yes.
And that is another form of, again, the sympathetic magic of aligning with an intention and trying to move in terms of will. But I would say it's also a much less stressful way than doing it with anger.
Yeah, it's way more fun. Yeah, it's way more fun where they can, like, in a way, poke fun at and make jokes within the issues of what's going on. I know that there's one parade in particular that's known that's pretty much what the whole parade is about all different kinds of issues that are going on and having a voice on those things. And people don't get riled up in a very angry way. It's very much in a, yeah, you're right. Like yeah, totally get it. And it's, I think, a very healthy way of dealing with and channeling your thoughts, but also vocalizing them as well. I really appreciated that about it. And also, to be fair, I know that a lot of people think about Mardi Gras parades and they think of Bourbon Street and they think of the woo and, like, you know, all that kind of thing. In the few times that I have been, and that does not make me an expert on any stretch of the imagination in this, my experience is I've never even seen that. I also don't go to the Bourbon side of those parades. I go to, I guess, where a majority of locals go because we're going with locals when we typically go. And it's way more family oriented than you might think.
Yeah. More. So yes, the sort of raunch part is not something I've seen either. So on the other side, I think one of the things that makes this really timely is the current Justin Baldoni, Blake Lively situation going on. And I think one of the reasons why it's gained so much attention is because if you really think about it, if Ryan Reynolds did in fact mock and murder multiply Justin Baldoni in the form of Nicepool
Mm-hmm.
inside his movie,
Yeah.
he in fact engaged us all
And some,
like that giant, paper chain.
yeah.
And so it even, I mean,
We
and
got brought into it unwillingly. Yes.
so unwillingly,
Yeah.
I have dropped my fandom of that completely, but that my anger at
Mhm.
being roped into something that I really thought that character was supposed to be just like his nice Canadian side.
Yeah, I was actually going to say, I'm really surprised that you're bringing this up in general because I know that you've had wanted nothing to do with any of that since the very, very beginning. So
Because yeah,
I'm
it
very,
just
listeners, I am very surprised to hear this come out of her mouth right now. I did not know that she was going to bring this up.
it has made me just so angry, and as I have been trying to figure out
Why?
why,
Mm-hmm.
it's that it is I did not know I did not know what I was laughing at when I
Mm-hmm.
laughed at it
Yeah.
in the movie.
Yeah.
And now that I know, I feel like I have been very much,
Betrayed.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that one of the reasons why this is become such an enormous deal
Mm-hmm.
is because of the range of that movie
Mm-hmm.
and the fact that we all got pulled into it without knowing it.
Yeah.
And that is another thing that I think we need to understand about sympathetic magic
Mm-hmm.
is it doesn't need your participation in order to work. So it's
True.
really, really important to make sure you know the origins of the things you do at concerts,
Mm-hmm.
the way you hold your hand in a group,
Yeah.
the colors you wear, just all of the things that were like, it's no big deal. Everybody's doing it. It's, I'm just part of the crowd. And realize that crowd, for instance, in this example,
Mm-hmm.
was used for straight up nefarious purposes. Like,
Yeah, and the more people that kind of get brought into symbolism and all of that and basically sympathetic energy, the more people that are involved, it's like a snowball effect,
mhm,
right? The more it gains momentum, the more it gains power and energy from everyone because it's like to say this collective idea
mhm.
that's then starting to work. And it's really important to be aware. Yeah.
And even beyond that, if you want to get like so far woo,
Mm-hmm.
the concept of, and this is in several cultures, but I know about it from, I guess, Balinese maybe, but the concept of a tulpa,
Yeah.
which is a thought form that gains actual form.
Mm-hmm.
So you can look at propaganda in a
Mm-hmm.
lot of ways and see that it became its own entity.
Yeah.
That was one of probably the occult practices of the Nazis
Mm-hmm.
to take their propaganda and turn it into an entity
Yeah.
using whatever the Aryans would have picked for Tulpa.
Yeah. So, on a personal story, in
Mhm.
relation to having energy, but having it become its own entity unto its own, this could be, I forget the name of it. So, I should probably not even mention that part of it, just my personal side of it. Sorry, I was going to relate it to a fictional story, but whatever. Bypass that. Okay. When I was younger, I ended up a number of times waking up in the middle of the night and I would just be on my back. I'd open my eyes. I'd see up on around the ceiling of my bedroom this movable black shadow shape.
I really feel like there should have been a warning here.
It's not a ghost. It's not a ghost. But basically think of
It
like
is a thing. It is a thing in your bedroom that is not supposed to be there.
it's all of a sudden there, right? And this would happen I don't know, I wouldn't necessarily say often, but definitely happened more than a handful of times to me. And then even into adulthood a couple of times.
So you had a
Eventually,
Dementor on your ceiling.
not a dementor, there's another name for it, and that was what I was kind of referencing. It's Harry Potter, but it is before Harry Potter, having to do with, oh man, I'm going to have to look this up. I'm so sorry. With the magical creatures, like the prequels to Harry Potter that
Oh, the
happened.
Fantastic Beasts.
Yes, the Fantastic Beasts. I can't talk. Yes. It's not a Dementor. It is somebody who's suppressing their magic and this other entity comes from it.
So it's almost like a Carrie.
Kind of, yeah, kind of similar. As I got older, I started to and talk to people who actually deal with these things more regularly. And I remember asking about this at one point. And what was described to me was that oftentimes when we ourselves, yes, are suppressing anger or rage or those kinds of things, and we're not actually dealing with them, that we do sometimes move them out of our body and it becomes its own thing like that. And that's actually what I was seeing was my own repressed anger and rage outside of me.
So that's interesting because, hey,
Oh,
Kabbalah,
yeah,
with a K.
With a K. That was actually on the docket as being one of the potentials. Go on.
But they believe that one of the things that we need to do, a constant practice, is to basically keep that energy you're talking about that had manifested on your ceiling away by when you feel anger, expressing it somehow in the world to get it out.
Yeah.
So, kicking a wall or shouting or something to express it so it doesn't have a chance to grow, because in the reality of sympathetic magic, there are people who know how to access that.
Yes.
And so if there's a bunch of people who have a repressed anger, where could that happen? Then if somebody knows how, they can gather that energy. Yeah.
Wrangle the anger.
Anger wranglers. And put it to work for them.
Yeah.
And so, I would argue you could do the same thing with racism. And that may be a lot of what we've seen in the past 100 years. So 200, 300.
Long time. Just a long time. Let's
just a long time. But that is.
Yeah.
And that's a K.
Yes. Yay, we fit one in. Yay. You're welcome. Not kidding.
So, do we want to pick a letter?
Sure. Let's pick a letter.
So, P.
P.
We will figure out parables.
Parables?
I don't know. I was naming a P.
Okay.
Because the other P that came to mind were panthers. And I just really can't think of a whole lot of,
we can do things.
Yeah.
We can do things. Also, really late to do this, but I'm just going to say, what is woo about sympathetic magic? I think it is an 8. I think the entire idea is very woo. I hope we've answered that.
So thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time
on All the Woo,
A to Z.